She gave her last $20 to a woman everyone else had laughed out of the room, and 3 days later that woman's grandson knelt in front of her with a ring. But before the ring, before the mansion, before the moment that changed everything, there was a girl who polished display cases in a store that treated her like furniture. Her name was Wren Calloway, and for 11 months she had been the person everyone at Ellison and Hale walked past without seeing, the ghost with a dust cloth. She worked in one of the most exclusive auction houses in Charleston, South Carolina, surrounded by things worth more than she would earn in a lifetime, touching beauty she could never own. Her supervisor made sure she knew her place every single morning, reassigning her commissions, stealing her clients, and smiling while she did it like cruelty was a company policy. The senior staff had a nickname for Wren that they whispered behind cupped hands whenever she passed. A word so casual it had stopped hurting and started becoming true inside her chest. Then one rainy Tuesday afternoon, an old woman walked through the front doors, wearing a coat 2 sizes too large and shoes held together with patience and habit. Every person in that room decided in under 4 seconds that this woman did not belong, and they let her know with glances sharper than anything locked in the display cases. Everyone except Wren, who crossed the floor, touched the woman's elbow and offered her a glass of water and a chair near the window where the light was warmest. What happened next should have been impossible, because the old woman pointed at the rarest collection behind the glass and said 8 words that made the entire room stop breathing. The laughter came first, then the humiliation, then the moment when Wren reached into her bag and pulled out the only bill she had left in the world. $20, folded twice, pressed into a stranger's palm like a prayer she did not expect. Wren did not know that the $20 she gave away would come back to her multiple. This is the story of what happens when the person everyone overlooks turns out to be the only one worth watching. The auction house sat on King Street between a law firm and a wine bar, its limestone facade carved with lions that looked bored with the pedestrians passing underneath them every morning. Ellison and Hale had been selling rare art, estate jewelry, and antique timepieces for 61 years, and the smell inside was always the same: wood polish, orchids, and quiet money. Wren Calloway arrived at 7:45 every morning through the service entrance on the side of the building, the one without a brass handle, the one that stuck when it rained. She was 26 years old, 5'4", with dark, curly hair she kept pinned back, and hands that were always slightly raw from the cleaning solutions she used on the glass cases. 11 months ago, she had been hired as a junior associate, which on paper meant client-facing sales support, but in practice meant whatever her supervisor decided it meant. That her supervisor was a woman named Gretchen Hale, 43, a co-founder's niece who had inherited the title of floor director and wore it like a crown she had actually earned. The rules were unspoken but absolute, and Wren had learned them by the second week. She could arrange, clean, polish, fetch, carry, and organize, but she could not sell. Selling was reserved for the senior associates, 3 women who had been at the house long enough to confuse seniority with superiority and treated new hires like temporary inconvenience. The most vocal of the 3 was Brittany Kessler, a woman who could price a sapphire across a room but could not remember the cleaning staff's names on purpose. Wren had managed to close a sale once in her 4th month. A modest Gretchen had called it a clerical correction, said the words without blinking, and Wren had nodded and gone to the restroom and pressed her palms flat against the cold tile. The nickname came from Brittany, passed through the others like a note in a classroom, and Wren first heard it on a Tuesday much like this one, while restocking velvet trays in the back. The placeholder. That was the word they used for her, as if she was keeping a seat warm for someone who actually mattered, as if her presence was a temporary typographical error. She knew because she had heard it 3 separate times through walls that were thinner than the people behind them, and each time her chest had done something complicated. She did not quit because quitting required a safety net, and Wren's safety net had a name. It was called next month's rent, and it was due in 11 days. That Tuesday began the way they all did, with Gretchen arriving at 9:15 in heels that announced her before her perfume did, scanning the floor like a general inspecting a trench. Wren was crouched beside the center case, adjusting a row of antique diamond chokers on their velvet necks, when the front door opened and the weather came inside with someone attached to it. An old woman stepped in slowly, shaking rain from her shoulders, and the first thing Wren noticed was her shoes. White sneakers with a crack running along the left toe like a river on a map. Her coat was olive green and too large for her. She stood inside the door blinking at the chandeliers the way someone blinks when they step from a dark theater into afternoon sun, slowly and with a kind of stunned patience. The room registered her arrival the way expensive rooms register anything that does not match. Quickly, silently, and with a consensus that required no discussion whatsoever among the staff. Brittany moved first, crossing the floor with a smile that was shaped like hospitality but sounded like a gate closing, heels tapping a rhythm that said, "This will be brief." "Can I help you?" she asked, and the old woman looked up with soft brown eyes and said quietly that she just wanted to look around if that was all right with everyone. Gretchen appeared from the back office the way weather systems appear on radar, fully formed and already moving, her eyes sweeping the old woman from headscarf to cracked sneakers in one fluid motion. She crossed her arms, tilted her head, and delivered a sentence so polished it could have been rehearsed. "This is a private consignment house. We serve established collectors by appointment only." The old woman did not flinch, but something behind her eyes shifted, the way light shifts behind a cloud. Not disappearing, but dimming in a way that made the warmth harder. Gretchen's smile arrived like a garnish on a dish that had already gone cold. "Perhaps there is a gallery down the street that might be more suited to your afternoon," she said. A breath of laughter passed through the room like a current, not loud enough to be confronted, but loud enough to land exactly where it was intended, on the woman standing alone by the door. Wren set down the choker tray with a soft click that somehow carried across the silence, stood up, and walked across the limestone floor toward the woman everyone else had already dismissed. She did not plan what she said next. It simply arrived the way necessary things arrive, without rehearsal. "Can I bring you some water? You look like you have been walking in the rain." The room shifted, not physically, but in weight, as if someone had moved a piece of furniture that had been blocking a doorway for months, and now air was flowing where it had not been. The old woman looked at Wren the way someone looks at an unexpected kindness in a place where they had already stopped expecting it, with surprise, and then with something deeper and older than surprise. "That would be lovely," she said, and her voice was steady, but her hand found Wren's arm and rested there like a bird deciding whether the branch was safe enough to stay. Wren brought her a glass of water and pulled a chair from beside the window where the afternoon light came through warmest, and set it at an angle so the woman could see the room. She sat with her, not performing, not rescuing, just sitting the way you sit with someone who needs to know that another person in the room considers them worth the time. The old woman's hand rested on top of Wren's, and her skin was cool and papery and mapped with years, and she said something so quietly it almost did not survive the air between them. "Good things find good people, child. Remember that." And Wren did not know why those 7 words landed with such weight, but she felt something inside her rearrange, the way a room rearranges when someone opens a window after months of keeping it shut. Then the old woman straightened in her chair, set her water glass gently on the windowsill, and turned toward the center cases with an expression that was no longer soft, but precise. "I would like to see 8 of your finest complete estate sets," she said clearly. "Necklace, earrings, bracelet, and ring. The best pieces you have available in this." Wren blinked, and for a moment the sentence did not register the way sentences are supposed to. It sat in the air like something from another room that had wandered into the wrong conversation entirely. 8 complete sets, Wren repeated, and the old woman nodded once with the calm authority of someone who had asked for exactly what she meant and did not intend to repeat herself.